are going to make mistakes. We are not going to be perfect. Perfect is not possible under the best of circumstances. And I think we can all agree we are not currently in the best of circumstances.
You know, for families, this is a really difficult time. Parents trying to manage their own anxiety with kids that have a lot of questions, and some of those questions parents can't quite understand right now. And keeping everyone calm in an ever-changing situation is not always that easy. So we're going to look for a little bit of help here today. And joining me is Dr. Erin Hunter. She's the interim director for the University Center for the Child and Family at the University of Michigan. Hi, Erin. How are you? I'm
doing okay. Yeah.
I know that you've also been balancing patients and working with patients this way by video conferencing.
Yes, we have entered over the last week. We have really tried to quickly adapt to moving from where we did not do any teletherapy before, and now we are, and we have our clinicians set up to be able to be working from home and hopefully continuing to support our clients as best we can during this time. So anything is possible, I suppose.
Absolutely. You're a clinical psychologist. Can you give us an idea of what you have been seeing over the last week and a half and some of the issues that parents and children are bringing to you?
You know, I think as you said, like, this is a really stressful time. And this is a time where I feel like it's very uncharted. And what's hard is then things aren't predictable and we don't know what's coming. So there's just a lot of stress, and I think a lot of stress for families as really the structure of our society has completely changed over the last week. You know, schools are closed and now people are homeschooling. And, you know, I think some of the things that are coming up for kids, I mean, you know, especially related to COVID-19 is, you know, am I going to get sick? Is my family going to get sick? What does that mean? I think that those are some of the anxiety for kids. I think the other thing is kids are missing things that used to be in their life, regular contact with their friends, going to school and seeing their teachers, activities, so hobbies, clubs, etc. You know, and I think that is hard on kids, and depending on the age, they'll have different levels of understanding of kind of what that is and what's going on. And I think for parents, you know, a lot of things too. How do I keep myself and my family healthy? How do I keep myself and my family sane while we are all stuck here in the house together? How do I manage all of these roles where I'm trying to do my job from home, but I'm also now a homeschool teacher, and I'm also a cook and a cleaner and, you know, a doctor and kind of everything else. And I just think that there's many more demands on families, as well as perhaps some anxiety about their jobs. Am I going to still have a job? How am I going to take care of my family? So I do think that there is a lot on everyone, but I think particularly on parents and families right now.
You know, what you said really resonated to me in terms of the different levels of understanding. I have 3 kids, and they range in age from elementary, middle, high school, and there's totally different questions coming from all 3 of them. And then the feeling that you've got to make sure it's all working and that it's all working really, really well. How do we manage our anxiety as parents so we're not transferring it and making it even more intense in our kids right now?
Well, and I think, again, so all of a sudden there's a whole lot more roles, and I think particularly on parents where, you know, you had a lot of roles even before this, and now it's just magnified completely. And I think the biggest thing is kind of lowering expectations for yourself, for your kids, and anyone else in your household. I've got 2 elementary age kids at home and a 1-year-old dog. I've even had to lower my expectations for my dog because yesterday I found that I was like, I'm like, stop digging in the yard. And I'm like, the dog is going to dig in the yard because that's what the dog does. You know, and it's hard to get as much exercise and everything. You know, so it's really just about lowering expectations and trying to be realistic. What are the demands that you have? How much are you trying to work from home? How much, you know, what is the age of the level of your kids? How much support are they going to need with different things? Because we cannot do it all. And we are going to make mistakes. We are not going to be perfect. Perfect is not possible under the best of circumstances. And I think we can all agree we are not currently in the best of circumstances. So just being kind, patient, and compassionate towards yourself and towards other in the family.
You know, it's really interesting. A lot of the things that have been going around in social media, and that's the way that people are really kind of connecting right now, is make the schedule for your children. And from 9 to 9:30, do this. From 9:30 to 10:15, do this. And I do think that scheduling is good in terms of routine, but how do we make sure that that schedule doesn't turn into something that's more detrimental? And again, that what you're talking about, that over expectation of perfection or keeping the trains running on time in a really bizarre time.
I think it's a really, really good question. There have been all those schedules. And I'll say again, I've got two school-age kids at home, a kindergartner and a second grader. So we had the schedule and we set it up. And what I found is that we cannot follow I'm a child psychologist. I went to school for this. I've been doing this for years and years.
This is your thing, Erin.
I should be brilliant at this, right? But the thing is, it's hard because I'm also trying to do some work. I'm trying to take care of the kids. I'm trying to clean the house. I'm trying to, make lunch. And we can't do all the things. So I will say having a set routine, I think is very crucial for kids and families and kind of everyone, because what the routine does, it establishes a sense of predictability in a world that feels a little bit out of control right now. So we want to have a schedule so that we have that predictability to reduce anxiety, but have it be a little bit of a flexible schedule too. And what is realistic? What I found is that I initially said that my kids were going to do 1 hour of worksheet school time, but without any of the technology and the tablets and the things online that the schools have all very wonderfully set up for the kids.
Right.
I can't make that happen all the time. 1 hour is actually a really long period of time. So we've tried to shift that so that we do some of the work, but then we're also doing some reading. And I think the most important thing is that when we become overly rigid with the schedule, then all of a sudden we're become even more stressed. And that stress is going to be felt by us, the kids. Kids pick up on much more than we even think that they do, not that they always understand it. And they're going to feel that stress. So the more rigid we are and the more that it's a stressor versus a helper, then it's going to undermine the whole reason why you have a schedule. So keep a schedule, keep it loose, and make it realistic. And I'm going to come back to my earlier point, lower the expectations. The kids do not need to be excelling at all the academic stuff right now. They need to be continuing to get exposure. They need to read. They need to be doing some math. But this is maybe a time where they could do some independent research projects. Maybe they're really, interested in how bridges work. Maybe they're interested in the origin of soap and where that came from. There's, maybe they want to go outside. That you can learn a lot through life and living. And especially for younger kids, they learn a lot through play. So when they're playing, that's not just free time where they're not doing anything. That is really useful time for their brains to be working through things, figuring them out. And so even play itself can be academic.
Yeah, it can be helpful. How much do we as parents shield kids from news or from information? And I'm not saying be not truthful with them, but how much exposure to what is happening in the world right now is good and bad? And I guess maybe age, it really makes a difference there too.
Age does really make a difference because just even in terms of cognitive abilities, kids at different ages are going to understand things at a different level, particularly abstract concepts like a pandemic. Like, what does that even mean to a 5-year-old? Mm-hmm. So I do think it's important to adjust it to the developmental level, and there's some really great resources out there, and we do have some posted on our website. So it's mari.umich.edu, where we've got some handouts and even scripts for how parents can talk to kids about this. And that I will say in general, I do think it's important to address it. Kids know about this. Again, my kindergartner brought up coronavirus before I even had a chance to bring it up with him sometime last week. So this is already something that they're aware of, kind of no matter their age probably. And I think it's about giving them enough information and answering their questions, but also giving them space to actually ask the questions. Right? So if they're ready for more, then they will ask for more. Some kids might be overloaded, and if they're not asking more questions, then it might not be the time. But definitely they are asking. And in general, I would say with all kids to have a little conversation. So this is what coronavirus is, that it's an illness, that it's kind of like other things. The thing is, it's new, so that our bodies haven't had a chance to kind of develop the defensive responses that we usually have to fight off things like the flu. Remember that you had in January when you stayed home for 2 days? So it's kind of like that, but we need to give our community time to build up those defenses which is why we're staying at home right now and why you're not going to school. Because what that does is it just helps slow it down so that the doctors and all the medical personnel can make sure that they're taking care of the people that are getting more sick from this. So it's scary, but it's okay, and we're going to get through it.
What about, what are some strategies that we can all use, not to blow off steam, but I guess sometimes to cope a little bit if you feel that your stress level is growing, or you have to step away from the kitchen where kids are fighting, or there's just been a lot of stress in the house, because this is what I'm envisioning is going to be happening over the next couple of weeks, that almost the strain on our mental health system might start to grow because of we are in new times here. So what are some things that we can do, whether it's blast music, I tell my family, or some things that we can really kind of cling to that will bring down some of the levels of anxiousness that some of us have?
Yeah, and again, another excellent question, because this is going to be a reality. We are going to get really stressed out. We're all going to lose it on occasion. Again, I myself, having gone to school and having done this forever long, I lose it with my kids, and there's times where it's like, I realize now that was not an ideal thing. So again, being compassionate and lowering our expectations for ourselves. I know I keep saying that, but it's just so important because that will reduce stress in and of itself. I think the other thing is, again, keeping those set routines so that there's some structure and predictability, and doing the one thing at a time, so that when you're have that be the time that your kids are doing some academic work, maybe even on their electronics or reading or playing, but you get that 2 hours to just focus on work. And then when you're with your kids, try to let yourself just be with your kids. And I'll say this is something that has been really drummed into me myself in my own experiences with my family, where I've been like, oh, let me just check this email, or someone's taking a phone call. Hold on, honey, just 1 minute.
That is even worse. Yes, you're absolutely right.
And I'll say, and that is when I get to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even deal with this anymore. And now I have to step outside and breathe for a few minutes before I can come back in and talk to my kids. So if you are at that max level, give yourself space. Go into a different room, step outside for a minute, take a few slow, deep breaths, count to 10. Just let yourself be in the moment. Let yourself have your feelings, because the more that we fight our feelings, the worse it gets. And we're going to have feelings all over the place. Feelings are basically messages that our body is giving us that something is going on. And sometimes it's junk mail, so we can recycle it. But sometimes we really want to pay attention and read that mail carefully and address it. So I think that there's that. I do think that the other thing is, in terms of kind of some more concrete strategies too, right. I saw a meme, of course, on Facebook, which everyone is turning to a lot.
Everyone's on Facebook now. Again, they're back.
Yeah. Well, I will say limiting TV and news and social media, not to not do it, but again, be thoughtful of how you're setting up your schedule, because sometimes it's just too much. Yeah. And kind of know your limits for yourself and take a break. But that I saw a meme that was kind of like, for those couples that are now going to be together for a long bit of time, develop an imaginary roommate that you can blame for things. And I actually love that idea, and I love applying it to families. So what you could do is that maybe there's a new, you have a roommate in your house, Messy Martin. Who left Legos all over the floor? It must have been Messy Martin. Well, I guess we're just going to have to pick up after Messy Martin. Who left their dishes, in the bathroom of all places?
This is genius. This is a great idea.
Because again, what it does is then it lets us take that blame that we might then in a pressure cooker system in our house, put on other people, but letting us put it on an external thing. So it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter that it's imaginary. What matters is that it's not fighting with one another, but blaming Messy Martin. And then you can come together as a team to be like, well, let's just pick up. Messy Martin's not going to do it. We know that. So I think that, again, that is another strategy for doing it. I think that the other thing is, even what we were coming back to, like we were saying earlier, that when we get out of this, and we will get out of this, this is temporary right now, even if it's like a longer term temporary than we initially imagined, it is still temporary. We are going to get back out into the world. And that when we do, we're not going to be exactly where we were before, because it's important that that we're going to be influenced by this time. And my hope is that people can really use, sometimes, again, this is not a crisis that I would wish on anyone at any time. And now that we're in it, how can we make the most of it? A crisis can highlight what is meaningful and important to us in a way that we wouldn't notice otherwise. So slowing down and taking stock of what are the things that kind of fill you up? What are the things that keep you going? Those are probably things that you don't just need right now, but that you're going to need in your life ongoing. That is a silver lining coming from this. I hope another silver lining is that people find ways to really connect with their family. I know at times I am definitely guilty of being divided, where again, I'm trying to do all the things.
Yeah,
I'm with my kids. I'm taking care of the dog. I'm also like responding to an email or whatever it might be. And that maybe this is a chance for us to figure out how to use technology effectively and usefully. And there's going to be many leaps with technology, I think. But also how to do it in maybe a more balanced way. And this isn't an opportunity that we would not have if this were not forced upon us in the current time. So I think that is another thing. The other thing that I'll come back to is talking about play, and then the creative outlets. Maybe you need to step outside. Maybe as a family, you schedule a primal scream where you all just step into your backyard or open a window.
The last time I did that, Erin, was in college during exams. Did you ever do that? Yeah.
I also did that in college, and I haven't thought about it much until recent events,
right.
You know, and that again, but then not as like a thing that you need to be ashamed about doing, but lean into it. Those are feelings that need an outlet.
Yeah.
Probably everyone else in your family needs it too. You know, maybe doing a dance party. You know, that's one of the things, trying to get exercise and be active, that I did with my kids yesterday. And then they even came up with the great idea of even hitting the pause button. So then we had to freeze and then go back to dancing. And it just made it even more playful and even more fun. So be creative, draw, write, sing, dance, but have outlets. Continue to connect and even be playful in your connections with friends, even if you're doing it online. Maybe after the kids go to bed, you set up a Zoom where a group of your parents are getting together and playing Cards Against Humanity. That one's probably best, especially with the younger kids being in bed.
Post 10 p.m.
Right. But again, you can still have game nights, and Netflix is now, I think, even set up so that you can watch movies and TV shows in a kind of group chatting format. So still make those connections, still be playful with your friends, even during this time. And honestly, Legos are fun. The toys you have are fun for me to play with too. And maybe again, after they go to, you get out the Legos, you get to play, you get the dollhouse and say like, now but allowing yourself to just be flexible and be playful. Play is particularly important when there's more stress, because it just lets us see things from a different perspective.
All right. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for all of the different ideas and the support out there. I think a lot of parents are really, and kids are going to really appreciate this. So, yeah. Erin, you be well, okay?
You too. Thank you very much.
And we will check in with you again as this continues. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.